Welcome to Make Your Money Matter with Brad Barrett, the show that aims to change the way you think about wealth management. Brad is a certified financial advisor, established radio host, and author of Retire Right. He is a managing director and partner at One Capital Management, an SEC-registered investment advisory firm managing over $4 billion for clients across the nation. Brad and his team are dedicated to helping clients protect and preserve their assets so they can reach their investment and retirement goals. And now, your host of Make Your Money Matter, Brad Barrett.
Welcome to Make Your Money Matter. I'm your host, Brad Barrett, mostly managing director and partner here at One Capital Management. I want to thank you all for tuning in and listening to the podcast today. On today's show, we're going to talk about and pick up on some items that we spoke about last week, obviously with everything going on in the banking and financial sector. We're going to touch on that a little bit. For those of you who did not listen to the podcast last week, I urge you to take a listen. It's a good overview of some items that were going on, obviously between Silicon Valley Bank, the U.S. banking system, Charles Schwab, Signature, and a lot of others that we touched on. We also sent out a perspective written here by our investment committee here at One Capital Management. And if you have not received that and would like to, you can email me at bbarrett@onecapital.com. You can also go on our website. You can click on the media tab and you can actually there download and subscribe to the podcast. And in that download and subscribe, you can also set a time with myself to go through some of the questions you might be having, in fact, around what's going on as it relates to your retirement plan. You can also receive and send your email address that way so we can send out our perspective. But real quickly, just to touch on what we spoke about, obviously, was everything going on with regards to the United States Federal Reserve System backing a lot of the depositors in the U.S. We touched on that. Please listen to last week's episode. But it brought me to thinking, and I had a lot of conversations with clients last week, and I was doing some thinking throughout the weekend and writing this week's episode around the added value of financial advisors. And I think more than any time before, obviously through what we saw in the past 12 to 15 months with the volatility, with inflation, supply chain issues, coming out of the pandemic, I wanted to bring up something that I know I talk about often. So for those of you who listen here every week, you might be rolling your eyes a little bit, so I apologize, but it's important. And I promise you, this is one of those things where I wouldn't bring it up on a consistent basis and always fall back to this common denominator if it weren't tried and true. In my nearly 2 decades now of being a financial advisor, it's so paramount to me to see that it's times of turmoil and volatility and items like this, like last week's banking crisis, if you want to call it that, comes around, it almost can veer us off course. I think anyone listening or watching right now can agree with that. I mean, you can't tell me that you had some sort of emotional reaction like, oh man, I should probably call Brad, my advisor, or an advisor you're working with, or should I be worried about this, right? Because it's a stronghold. The media and what's going on, it's not exactly, warm and fuzzy. And that's okay. The importance I'm trying to bring up is where you have someone to call and who you lean on for experience to work through some of these things and make sure that 2 things, really. 1, you're not veering off course for what your goals and objectives are with your retirement and with your money. That's important. And then 2, what are you doing to protect yourself, right? Diversify yourself, or are you exposed to certain things that come in the news like what we saw last week? So there was a study done a couple of years ago by Vanguard, and it was really fascinating. I've referenced this before, and again, it was the added value of financial advisors. And what I want to share is this, and here's the highlighted point, which is actually kind of a wild study, and it's a little bit subjective, but I do agree with a lot of the points. And what they're bringing here is that they can actually advisors can add about 3 percentage points of value in net portfolio returns over time. So what's interesting here to me is that, and I've shared this a lot, is one of the main things a financial advisor or someone you can work with that you can build confidence in with regards to your money is bringing you peace of mind. Now, the fact that this study went further, and I'll bring up some points of how they got to that number here in a second, when this study goes further and goes, it's not just peace of mind, they can actually add numerical net value to your performance. So you're probably thinking, okay, what does this mean? Okay, so your advisor or an advisor you might be working with, and for those clients of mine here at One Capital Management, this is what we strive to do for you. We have the ability and the time to evaluate your portfolio investments and meet with you to discuss your objectives and help you get through tough markets. That's what we call our quarterly reviews. And all of these factored together potentially add up to value as a net return over time. Now, there's 3 pillars here that they studied, and this is actually 3 pillars that I speak about often when it comes to a financial advisor or a wealth management. It's something we here at One Capital do for our clients. And the 3 pillars are portfolio construction, wealth management, and behavioral coaching. Now, I want to dissect each of those. Let's start with portfolio construction. An advisor, a good one, can work with you to create a diversified portfolio while also ensuring that you don't pay too much for investments or maybe pay too much in taxes on investment returns. It's an amazing design when you have an unbiased and objective person looking at your portfolio and being able to help you manage your goals and objectives because it removes the emotions out of it. I've shared this before. My wife, Veronica, our 401k, our joint account here are all managed here by the same portfolio manager that works with my clients. You might be thinking, well, Brad, you know what you're doing. You've been doing this for a long time. You do it for us. Why wouldn't you do it for yourself? It's the same reason why a doctor doesn't do surgery on himself. Well, in that case, it's physical. He literally can't probably perform the surgery. But in my case, I could, but I choose not to. And I choose not to for 2 reasons. One, I believe in what I preach, just as I mentioned, the unbiased, the objective approach, okay? And 2, I'm a human being just like you. I'm not immune to what happened last week, or I'm not immune to, what we saw in 2020 or the political environment we saw in 2017 or Brexit in 2015 and government shutdowns in 13 and 08, 09 great financial crisis. I mean, need I go on? But my point in saying this, I'm not immune to the emotions that I can bring into my own investments. So I want someone else managing it for me. And I want it done here at my firm because that's how we've designed it to be for our clients. And again, back to my first point is I believe in what we preach. We've designed it well to diversify our clients and protect them from difficult and tough and volatile markets. And this Vanguard study actually went through on this one pillar of a financial advisor of portfolio construction. They estimated up to 1.2% of added value in net returns over time. Now, pillar number 2 is wealth management. So wealth management entails making regular changes to your portfolio to help reduce risk. And when you're ready to withdraw, for those of you, about to retire or maybe in the future looking to retire, we can do it in such a way to help limit the taxes you'll pay. The regular changes that we do here at One Capital are what's called rebalancing. It's active management. So it's a part of the holistic approach of making sure that we're looking at everything, right? We're looking at your cash flow, your debt management. We're looking at, how you're going from working to pension or working to retirement assets and how all of those things intertwine. And this Vanguard study estimated that the wealth management pillar of a financial advisor, or your advisor's value, should you speak, is up to 1.05% of net added value in returns over time.
Stay connected. Get frequent updates on the show. Follow Brad Barrett and Make Your Money Matter on most social media platforms. And catch full episodes of Make Your Money Matter streaming now on our YouTube channel. To schedule your no-obligation appointment, go to onecapital.com or call 805-410-5454.
Now, the third pillar I think is the most important. For those of you who listen to me each week, know I'm a big believer in this. The behavioral psychology that we all bring into our investments, our retirement, our money in general. We almost subconsciously do it. We don't even realize it. So I like talking about it a lot. So we bring it to the conscious level of our mind. So we start actually talking about it. And that's the behavioral coaching. Now, it does not shock me at all. And that's why I want to share this study, that this Vanguard study went through and estimated the value that an advisor, a good advisor, can bring to the behavioral coaching pillar of the overall advisor's value is up to 1.5%. Single-handedly, the largest percentage added value of all the 3 pillars. And I bring this up and I want to highlight this for this week for this reason. It's guidance when you need it most. The biggest value an advisor can provide is behavioral coaching. Now, you might be going, Brad, what the heck is behavioral coaching? Look, this is how I would sum it up. It's protecting you from you. And by the way, back to my point a minute ago, I want that for myself just the same. I want my portfolio manager here, who works for my clients just the same, to protect me and Veronica, my wife, from us. Because we can single-handedly be the torpedo that sinks our ships because I got emotional on something, or I was overreacting maybe, or maybe I was underreacting. Either way, it's important that behavioral coaching, is why I sum it up in a very simple way, is we're protecting you from you. And I think this is most important during market turbulence, when you may feel the need to abandon, let's say, your asset allocation and maybe move to cash, as an example. To sum it up, your financial advisor, a financial advisor in general, is there to counsel you, to listen to your concerns, and essentially guide you on the right path. Your advisor can work with you to add value throughout the course of your relationship. And so you add all those pillars up. This study actually showed that there's a net 3% over time of net added value. And I'm not necessarily harping on the percentage, so to speak, or necessarily me or us as an advisor or an advisor in general. I'm just bringing it up because I think it's important for all of us to remember why we have coaches in our past, why we have accountability partners in our life now, why we have trainers, why we have certain things in areas of our life, yet sometimes we tend to not use those in some of the most important areas of our life. One of those might be money. And so I bring this up simply to say that with all the turmoil going on in the past week and a half, I want to remind people that this is the time when, if you were reading that and you were seeing all the news and you felt like you had no one to call or no one to lean on, and you were kind of reacting on whatever you were reading or whatever subscription model you're into and what they're writing about, and you start overreacting or underreacting, that might be a good checkpoint for yourself to be like, I might want to seek some counsel, find someone I can build some trust in to help me make sure that, okay, is this something I should be concerned about or worried about? Is this something I should be looking through as it relates to my family and my investments? Should I be doing something different? I mean, there's so many questions that come around. And I want to bring up something else that I brought up this year, in fact, from what we saw last week. And this relates to the behavioral coaching aspect of the financial advisor's value. For many of you who listen, you've heard me say the two words that sound eerily similar, but not the same, are worried and concerned. Now, I just mentioned them a minute ago. And what I think is important is when you look at last week, something that you see Silicon Valley Bank basically going into receivership. Then over the weekend, you see Signature, and then you start talking about First Republic and so on and so forth with the Credit Suisse deal with UBS. And you start thinking, okay, where is this going? Now, right there is a good checkpoint to say, am I worried or am I concerned? And here's what I want to bring about when it comes to those two words as it relates to your money. Worry typically takes energy from us to focus and consume our time and energy on something that we likely can't control. Now, concern, although sounds similar, is actually very different. Concern is what I put in the camp of discernment. That's the notion of, hey, this is interesting. Obviously, it has effect on me somehow, some way. And concern will typically lead me to action on something that I might be able to control within the world that we can't control. Now, I know how that might sound kind of scientific and a little hooby-dooby, but hear me out, okay? If you're worried and consumed and just, bitter about that, then we're not doing anything. There's no action being had there. On the concern side, like I had some clients reach out, hey, Brad, anything I should be concerned about? Anything we should look at? What's going on here? Those are good questions. Those are good reach outs. If we have the other side where either A, they're not reaching out because they're kind of consumed with the energy and just going down this spiral of news feeds, that's not good. And then if they're bringing it up and frantically moving off of things because they're like, you know what, I'm just going to do this and that and already made up your decision, then it's like, well, were you worried or were you concerned? Because worried leads to inaction and concerned leads to action. So I want everybody, we all should be, on high alert at all times for certain things that protects our family. There's nothing wrong with that. And as you hear me say often, the two successful aspects that should be in any investment or retirement plan is discipline and discernment. Now, I know how that may sound to many as I say it often, but I've been around this business a long time, and I know, and I've been around a lot of heavy hitters who've been very successful, and I've just seen a whole bunch of different numbers behind different people's names. And what I've shared is this, is the common denominator isn't that they necessarily found some niche in the market or some, specific stock like everyone loves to talk about. It's that they actually kept doing what they were doing along the way. That's the discipline. And they were discerning through different market turmoils or different things about how they want to react to it. And that's what I think is really important. That's what I want to share with everyone every week here on the podcast. but also within our practice here at One Capital Management, we like to share with our clients. So today's focus was largely around just taking a look at the value of advice, especially during times of turmoil. And obviously we've seen some turmoil over this past year and a half. And I think last week's was just kind of a very topical turmoil, if you will. And so I just thought it'd be nice to just kind of take a breath and kind of everyone, lean into who are you working with? Are you seeking advice and counsel? And is that of value to you? Everyone likes to focus on, okay, what are you paying somebody? And I get that, that's important. But what are you getting for it? Like in most businesses, and especially in ours, you get what you pay for. And so it's really important to find counsel and sit with someone and make sure that they're on your side of the table, right? You want to be sitting with them kneecap to kneecap, or I guess in this wonderful world we live in nowadays, maybe it's Zoom to Zoom. It doesn't matter, but feel that they are with you on your side, understanding your goals and objectives, because that's the true value of an advisor. Do those three things I mentioned, which is the portfolio construction, the diversifying yourself and protecting you from market turmoil, the wealth management, which is the overall holistic picture, okay, of, actively managing those portfolios, actively managing your debts, your cash flow, all those kind of items. And then thirdly, that behavioral coaching, the aspect of making sure that, hey, if we set these goals and objectives, let's make sure we stay on track. And that's important, especially during times of disruption and turmoil. I want to thank you for listening to the Make Your Money Matter podcast. As always, before you act on anything discussed today, make sure to speak with a financial professional near you. Or again, if you'd like our help, you can reach us at onecapital.com or give us a call. You can reach us at 805-410-5454. And until next week, always remember, make your money matter.
The information in this show is educational and general in nature and does not take into consideration a listener's personal circumstances. Therefore, it is not intended to be a substitute for specific individualized financial, legal, or tax advice. To determine which strategies or investments may be suitable for you, consult the appropriate qualified professional prior to making a final decision.